normies are gonna ignore because it's not shoved in your face constantly, but it's not subtle either.
Why did she exist again? Oh, right, diversity points, right.
Because dumb people can very easily be fed subliminal propaganda constantly and never even notice.
Are the developers trying to tell me that Ukraine aren't the universal good guys?
We want to replace you. We wish you were all dead. Thanks for your money, though.
I fucking hate wokeness with every fiber of my being.
Now, originally, I was going to make this video months ago, but due to health reasons and him making several more videos that I thought would be good to put in this video, I didn't make it right away. But now that I'm better and have more free time, I can finally talk about someone who I feel is the right-wing version of Anita Sarkissian. Who am I talking about? Why, it's none other than the Synthetic Man gamer, anti-woke video essayist. Now you see, just like Anita Sarkissian, Synthetic Man notices things.
Just the fact that I'm being attacked for noticing things.
And just like Anita Sarkissian, his mind is so warped by politics that he can't stop seeing wokeness in video games. So, what does he do? He calls it out.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Probably support leftist censorship, so your satanic panic illusion falls on deaf ears. I don't support censorship on any level from either side, but I will call out things I notice.
I mean, they're both wrong, but unfortunately, Synthetic Man here is a little more vile than Anita Sarkissian, in that he is unironically the embodiment of almost every negative stereotype that the media portray gamers as. So, sit back, relax, and get yourself some popcorn, because this is going to be a wild ride.
The skill issue. The skill issue.
There are many issues that I have with Synthetic Man as a video game reviewer. For example, when he reviewed God of War Ragnarok, for some reason, he just didn't want to listen to the in-game dialogue.
Forgive me if I don't pay attention to the countless pointless dialogue.
Quit talking over the game.
You really want to hear all this shitty dialogue, dude? Blow the $70 yourself on the shitty game if you really care about the dialogue.
Which, as you know, dialogue in the God of War games, or just any game for that matter, is very important to understand the overall plot and the little subplots that are throughout the game. But of course, he didn't listen, so he made stupid, wild assumptions about the story.
And yet more evidence that the writers emasculated Kratos. He never tries to kill Odin here. Even if it wasn't out of rage, which it would be, if he killed Odin, the plot would be over and he would win. I'm not saying he should win here, but he should at least try to kill Odin. He shouldn't just fucking stand there and get roasted and say nothing in return. Come the fuck on.
But even when he was corrected on it, he doubled down, while also moving the goalpost.
And so this commenter said, I mean, Atreus was still in Asgard, so if Kratos tries to kill Odin in this scene, then Atreus would likely be killed by the gods in Asgard. Yes, absolutely, I agree. But that doesn't mean that the writers had to handle it this way. The problem is, a lot of these comments are treating it as if this game's story was written in stone, it could never be changed, or they don't want to address how it was written at all. And so instead of addressing my criticisms of the writers themselves, these comments just say, well, that's what happens in the story. Didn't you see what happened in the story? Yes, and I disagree with it. I think it's horrible. That's my point.
He does this several times throughout his review, where he asks, why couldn't a character just do this? And then when it's explained to him why that character didn't do it, he has to bend over backwards to try and justify why his changes to the story would be better. Synthetic Man also seems to think that Kratos should be acting and behaving like the Kratos from the first 3 games.
And it once again further assassinates Kratos' character, character development. Yeah, that's a good one. How can you even call it character development if it happens off-screen in between God of War 3 and 4?
Even though this isn't the Kratos from those games. And it was pretty obvious when Kratos sacrificed himself at the end of God of War 3 to give hope to mortals that was the beginning of his character development. Speaking of character development, Synthetic Man doesn't like the character that Kratos has developed into, or even the overall direction the God of War games are going for.
And then when he returns to Sindri's place again, he cries. Yes, Kratos pretty much cries. I don't think we see a tear leave his eyes, but come on, look at this. Or, I don't want to kill guys. I'm so mature now. Now watch me cry on screen. Fucking Kratos cry.
He was far better off knowing as little as possible.
Oh, I'm so ashamed. I did bad stuff in the past. I'm such a bad dad.
All this self-pity is disgusting.
Forgiveness can be powerful.
Yeah.
Even for the unworthy. My wife Faye taught me that.
Which again, if he actually respected and listened to the dialogue, he might have a better understanding of why Kratos is acting like this. But of course,
Forgive me if I don't pay attention to the countless pointless dialogue.
over and over again, we see him talk about stuff he knows nothing about. He complains about God of War butchering Norse mythology, even though he knows nothing about it.
Yeah. I'm sure this... What was is she even the god of? I already forgot. This game is a massive disappointment to Norse mythology. Yeah. Yeah. Is she even the god of? I already forgot. The Apple Core.
Must have taken ages to build.
It's not very Norse sounding.
When it comes to actual gameplay, just like the dialogue, he didn't engage with the game's mechanics, leading to some of the funniest gameplay moments I've ever seen.
Dude, this is too many moves. I'm gonna forget some of these. Oh, they want you to combo the blades and the axe. That's stupid. Or axe. The ice axe does more if you do the burning first. No one's ever doing that shit. I need to get an upgrade that just makes all the attacks freeze guys or something. Because there's too many buttons to do the thing I want to do. Motherfucker, these guys are... Dude, no. They didn't test it. They didn't. They tested on easy for the journalists. This is some fucking bullshit. This game sucks. This game sucks. I literally... All three of them hit me at this. This game sucks. This game sucks. This is normal difficulty. This is normal difficulty. This game sucks. But on easy? I'm not playing this game on easy. You out of your mind? I guarantee they only tested this on easy mode because they knew all the game journalists and the developers played it on easy mode too. They all suck.
And of course, he had to bring modern day politics into the game, even though, once again, he is just wrong on every point.
And some people have implied that he's supposed to be a Trump allegory, but I will give the developers the benefit of the doubt this time.
Odin used her.
And she unwittingly paid the price.
Classic Odin.
She is a monster. Also, this Odin man bad shit is like reaching meme levels, where it's like the Odin that's talking to Atreus is like a nice old man dude who's acting like, you know, an uncle or a grandpa, and then the game constantly tells you how horrible he is. He really is like the Trump of this game. Even though this is not something anybody actually follows in real life, try and find a leftist who doesn't think a conservative is a Nazi. Good fucking luck. Now this infantile, pseudo-mature Marvel movie for man-children, people who refuse to actually grow up and have real responsibilities, that being getting a wife and having children, right? Being an anti-natalist does not make you mature, it just makes you a depressed nihilist like everyone else. And eventually, after fighting your way through the now light elf-dominated landscape, and guess what? The light elves are bad too! Everyone's a bad guy in war, who would have thought? Are the developers trying to tell me that Ukraine aren't the universal good guys who are gonna save the world and defeat those evil fascists in Russia? I'm surprised that somebody hasn't tried to cancel Sony Santa Monica for this.
Okay, all that stuff is just insane. By the way, this is a God of War review. Just imagine bringing up the Ukraine-Russia conflict in a video game review when the Ukraine-Russian conflict happened the same year that game was released. Newsflash, buddy, they already had the storyline planned out way before the first bomb even hit Ukraine. Game development takes a lot of time. Now, I could go on and on about how stupid and straight up ignorant he is just by talking about his God of War review. But I think EFAP did an excellent job of breaking down why his review was terrible. So I would suggest you go and watch that, because every second of that stream is just pure entertainment, and I highly suggest you go watch it.
Because if you know anything about Ragnarok from actual Norse mythology, you know Fenrir is a big part of it. The game also tries really hard to tug at your heartstrings here, but we literally just met this wolf. We've never seen him before.
He's a dog.
So, you know what? Atreus cares about him, and we know who he is.
I fucking hate wokeness with every fiber of my being.
Synthetic Man sees woke in anything, no matter how big or how small the woke thing is. For some reason, he just injects politics into games that he feels are woke, without doing any surface level thinking.
Look at this diversity squad here.
Do as you wish.
We got a dwarf, a human, I'm assuming. I don't know. I guess he's human. Who fucking knows? And then we got elves.
I will not compromise.
Diversity squad.
You mean like Lord of the Rings? Do you think the Lord of the Rings was woke, Synthetic Man? I mean, come on. None of these characters are even black. Speaking of black people, Synthetic Man seems to take issue with them whenever they are on screen, whether it's a race-swapped character.
You'll notice one major change immediately, that Sarah is now black. What does this add to the show? Why, absolutely nothing.
Background characters that aren't important to the story, that either die in-game or are just used as props for propaganda posters.
I want to address that this is not specifically going to be a Dead Space remake evaluation type of thing. I talked about it for about 5 minutes in my Last of Us Episode 3 review, and I will be retreading a couple of those points for this video, but it's not specifically about that game. There's definitely much more woke games than Dead Space Remake, but it was still bad enough to catch my attention, that's for sure.
He doesn't like original black characters.
Now, honestly, her casting is pretty decent. It actually looks quite a bit like the character from the game, which already you might have had some feelings around the leader of a huge resistance group being a black woman, but also her second in command is also a black woman. At what point is this just straight up racial favoritism?
Hell, even a fantasy world isn't off limits to him complaining about black people.
That's where ESG comes along and is like, okay, you need to have a black female protagonist on top of a culturally diverse fantasy world with no explanation as to how those people got there.
I didn't know this needed to be said, but it's a place where magic and dragons are real. If you're okay with them being there, then you should have no problem with a culturally diverse fantasy world. Now, there could be some good arguments as to why race swapping characters is bad, but when you go out of your way to also shit on original black characters that have no explicit political messaging behind them and are just existing in that world, then we have a problem. Recently, he did videos on the Xbox and PlayStation showcase where he had a woke counter to every time something woke happened in them. And of course, it was mostly when black people were on screen.
We have a strong black female protagonist who I guess is killing people and stealing rich people's money or something. At the start of the next trailer, an interracial couple with a goblino child. And then they're brutally murdered? Now, you might say that cancels out the woke factor, but this is supposed to be a propaganda ad, Starship Troopers style, featuring a black female protagonist with a katana and some kind of wolf spirit thing with antlers. And I already know people are going to make excuses for this protagonist choice, saying, well, it's an indie studio, so this is definitely their original artistic idea, has nothing to do with current political trends, the push towards diversity and inclusion. It definitely was an original idea, not inspired by anything else. Unfortunately, it looks like we have a playable black female cop, but I'm pretty sure she's only one of multiple playable protagonists. I'm still counting this on the woke counter because it's not a fucking coincidence, guys. Featuring a black female protagonist. At the very least, I can say the setting is appropriate. It seems to take place in a bayou. The Xbox presenter comes out, who, coincidentally I'm sure, is also a black woman, and tells us how great Xbox fans are.
Okay, so this is editing Sparky here, and I just wanted to say that some of the stuff that I pulled up here for the examples of him saying that the Xbox and PlayStation stuff was woke, I didn't fully hear a lot of what he said, but when I pulled up these clips and finally listened to what he said, I realized that the way that I talk about it doesn't reflect like how vile some of the comments he said were. So I just want to say I'm sorry for that. I just wanted to make it clear that the tone that I originally had wasn't as condemning as it was to what I'm doing right now. So I'm sorry for that, and let's get back to the video. Now, if the people behind these games start spewing some nonsense like, the reason we made these characters is that minorities are often underrepresented in this cisgendered white man's world, so instead of having actual likable characters, we made a shitty, unlikable group of millennials that have to pay rent and shit on capitalism every second.
I've told you before, the idols are trying to build a post-capitalist society where money is not a concept.
Yeah? Then why don't you go run off and join the commune?
This is probably the most extreme example of it, but you get what I mean. These are woke characters that were made by woke writers that ultimately led to the woke studio getting shut down. I will say it again, original black characters that don't force some weird ass messaging and our actual characters are not woke. But of course, you see wokeness wherever you go, so you're not really going to stop noticing it.
But I will call out things I notice.
This, by the way, is just one of the minority groups that Synthetic Man doesn't like in his games. I haven't even talked about women.
I know I have some Middle Eastern fans. If you'd like to share what you think would happen to this woman during that time period in the comments, feel free.
Or gay and trans people.
I wonder if Sony was allowed to be full woke, like these devs, if they would make them, like, lovers or some shit. Sindri, they made even gayer, I feel like, than he was before. So I'm getting that vibe. Disturbing, like, pedo vibes.
And I'm not going to, because it would take too long. Just know that I would say basically the same thing, but it would be for women and gay people.
Borderline satanic imagery. I have no idea if this is intentional or not.
Synthetic Man has come up with many conspiracies about what's going on in the gaming industry. It's kind of funny to just sit and watch what conspiracy he'll come up with next.
And to dip into the schizo paint a little bit, the king being a goat man, who are the Zonai people who came from the heavens, is borderline satanic imagery. I mean, all this shit about pronouns and having ugly women and trans characters and black female protagonists everywhere, it is just naturally repulsive to any straight white male with any amount of testosterone, right? Which is why they hate us so much. Or maybe it's a chicken and the egg situation, and they hate us, so they purposely make the products unplayable, unwatchable, etc., to demoralize us, right? Everyone wants there to be an equivalent to the Illuminati, but it just doesn't... Like, that's just not how it works in reality. There are multiple groups of people trying to bring down Western civilization, and they're not all on the same team. There's a certain... common factor between all the teams, if you do your research, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, certain...
Ready
Never
to be
mind.
asked.
Anyway, you guys all know. I'm preaching to the choir.
You see, his mind is so poisoned by politics that he has, I think, gone off the deep end. And he sees every little thing that he doesn't like as some grand conspiracy to end the white race or something like that. It couldn't simply be that Tears of the Kingdom just wanted to have a goat man in their game. No, it had to be because they are satanic, and somehow goat men will make the youth satanic or something like that. It couldn't be that the people making video games genuinely want to make good games with representation in them and are just not good at them. No, they make the games bad because they hate white men. Jesus, I don't even know how to begin countering the Jewish question because I'm not fully equipped for it. I don't really know what else to say other than stop spending your time on 4chan, man. That shit will rot your brain, man.
Based, Dr. Freeman.
So, to end this off, I will say this. Synthetic Man, not everything is woke, not everything is anti-white, not everything is political, and no, you don't have to call it all out. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.